Welcome to the BBC.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Between Both Cheeks podcast. I am Becca. It's just me today. Luba has a headache, and Erin, she had a pet, her little kitty cat, cross the Rainbow Bridge. So if you've ever gotten an email from Erin, you know who she is. If she's helped you out, maybe send her a little note because she is going through it right now. He was 17 years old, so he had a very long life, but that's 17 years with somebody that's no longer with you. So, I could only imagine. I spent all weekend cuddling my cat so tight and telling her that she's going to live forever. So, hug the people and the pets you love a little bit closer. And if you know Erin, maybe send her a sweet note to let her know you're thinking of her. But in other news, we have a very exciting guest today. So it's kind of worked out maybe that it's just me hosting this episode because, as you know, I do the marketing at Bright. And one thing that I'm very passionate about, like everybody knows, even people who don't work at Bright or work in marketing at all, know about my love with another company called Privy. Now, Privy is an email and SMS marketing tool software that you can integrate with your website to keep in contact with your customers. So if you get our emails, that's the vehicle we use to send them. And our account manager, account rep is Carly, who's with us today, and she's going to tell you all about what you should do for your business in terms of email. So welcome, Carly.
Hey Becca, thank you. I'm happy to be here with my Privy bestie.
Yes. So the love is mutual. And you guys, anytime, which is unfortunately very frequently lately, that we have issues with another company, any company, with their support or their level of I don't know, just like being organized and having their shit together. I don't mention Privy by name because I don't want them to go and find out all my secrets, but I say like, there's this other company we work with and they're great and I can talk to Carly anytime I want and you guys need to step it up. Shopify, I'm talking to you. So So Carly, can you tell us what Privy is, what your role with Privy is, and did I explain it correctly?
Yeah. So I'm a senior customer success manager at Privy. And like Becca said, we are a software company that provides pop-ups, email, and text marketing to online brands. And we're pretty specifically targeted at small businesses and especially ones that are using Shopify. And as far as my role goes, I think of myself as like a coach to small businesses. So ultimately, I'm here to make sure you're getting the most out of your subscription and using the tool correctly. But also, I'm just here to be a thought partner, help people with strategy. A lot of the businesses that I work with, it's, the owner who's wearing a lot of different hats. Maybe they've never done marketing before. So I'm here to be their sounding board and figure out what would work best for their business in terms of the marketing that they do use.
So good, and she is the best thought partner, in my opinion. And so with Privy, how did you get started? Like, did you go to school for marketing, for email marketing? How do you end up here?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like this could be a very long answer, so I'll try to keep it short. But basically, as far as like my career goes, I've always been in customer facing type of roles since my very first job. And then I worked years in clothing retail. I worked at like Urban Outfitters and Free People for years. And then ultimately ended up in like the customer success world. And as far as like my education goes and why I was drawn to Privy and how I kind of landed here, I did go to school. I started off in marketing, but then I knew that like just business school was not for me. So I wanted to switch things up. I've always been creative, so I ended up actually going to and designing from like the design school at Arizona State. But mainly was focused on like marketing, visual design, and things like that. And then with Privy, it was kind of like all of those things got to like mesh into one, and I knew that I was able to, you know, be customer facing and help people, but actually tap into my strengths and my background and my passions. And ultimately, I've always had a passion for supporting small businesses, and it hits close to home because my mom and my stepdad each own their own small businesses, so I've seen it all firsthand, like all the struggles you can have and what does and doesn't work. So that's kind of how I landed here. I didn't have any like formal education in email marketing per se, but it's kind of just like this tornado of everything I've ever done in my life kind of met at this point.
So good. Isn't it awesome when that happens where you're like, oh, that's why I learned that is so I could use it now for this?
Yeah, and I feel like we probably have similar type of, experiences where like, you're not like you haven't been a director of marketing your entire life, you've done a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
that have gotten you to this point and you found like the right company to like take you under their wing and really help you see your fullest potential.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So most of our audience are estheticians or business owners in other industries, but primarily in the beauty industry. So, and a lot of them are solopreneurs, like what you were speaking about. They're the owner operator, they're doing all of the things, or they might have a very small team. So, for those listening that maybe aren't doing emails or texts or any marketing sometimes, why should they? And what's like a very easy way to start? Because I feel like a lot of times we get overwhelmed, especially when it's not in our wheelhouse. Like I find when I talk to small business owners, at least at the trade shows about marketing and stuff, they're just like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. So, how can we simplify it? And why should they do it? Should they do it? Or can they just skip it?
Yeah, I think it's important to at least do email marketing, and I think it's something that you should probably get started on like as soon as you really feel like you can. Um, the reason I think it's important is just engaging with your audience so that you stay top of mind and relevant, especially as things like the holidays come up, especially if you're a small business, like leaning into that. People would much rather support other human beings that are supporting themselves and their families rather than like the big guys out there. And there is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of competition, so anything you can do to really stay top of mind for people is a good thing. And piggybacking off of that, I feel like if you're wanting to expand your business and grow it, like if that's one of your goals, if you're able to, um, growing an email list so that you're not just kind of like trapped in your own small community. There's going to be a time where you tap out there. So it's also an opportunity to just grow in that way and reach more people than if you were to not do it in the first place.
Yes, and with that, you guys, we just did a training event on October 9th in Dallas, Texas, and it was our first time adding in like a sales and marketing portion into the curriculum. And I hope it was received well. I don't know. We just did a customer survey, so I'm going to read through that today. But one thing that I talked about a lot is like, you guys, you need a website. You need a website. And I know you're probably an esthetician. You're like, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to do that. But if you're following the same people I am in the aesthetics community, you know that last week the Dallas esthetician and Tampa waxer both had their Instagram accounts removed. And Carly, these are like big industry people. They both had their accounts removed. Now Savannah, she's verified. She's got like 200,000 followers. So if hers can go away, imagine what can happen to you. And Tampa Waxer, she has lots of connections. She has a decent amount of following. She has a huge podcast, and she lost it as well. And what happens when all of your eggs are in one basket and you're using your Instagram to show your before and after photos for people to book with you? That's how you stay in touch with your clients. You don't own that. But your
Yeah.
website, and then later on, once you build it, your email list, you own those contacts. They can unsubscribe, but you have their data and you can access it at any point as long as the internet exists, right? But I just see this so often where I go and I look and you only have an Instagram, which is great to have that too, but you need to have a website on your Instagram, and you need to use your website first and social media second or third or fourth, depending on your market and who you're trying to talk to. But and another thing, put your location in your Instagram bio for the love of all things, because so often I go, like, we do contests or I'm adding providers to the website, and I go and I look at their social media, and I'm like, I don't even know where this person is. So if I were a prospective client and I saw you, I don't know if you're in North Carolina and I'm in Maryland, or if you're down the street 20 minutes away, right? So that was a little rant, but
No, I was going to bring that up too. Like, you don't own your social media following. If
yes.
something happens and it gets shut down or you lose those followers, like, that's it. You have to start from square
Yeah.
one. So if you at the very least have an email list, like, that is something that you tangibly own. Nobody can take that away from you.
Mhm.
Um, it's so important, especially with, like, I work with so many different small businesses, and half the stuff we talk about is how freaking crazy like Instagram, Facebook algorithms are, like,
Mhm.
especially towards small businesses. Like, they're not very friendly towards the little
Yeah.
guys. So, like you said, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. And I can agree, like, one thing that only a few people know about me actually is, randomly this year I decided to go to school to be a nail tech, and now I have my
Ooh.
license. Yes. Um, so that was quite the experience. And I mean, my mom's a hairstylist, so I've always been exposed to like cosmetology and that kind of sphere. But
Mhm.
I experienced the same thing where it was like going to people's Instagrams or whatever, and they just flat out didn't have a website. There was no other way to reach them or find out where they
Mhm.
are. Even just like looking for schools, like, it's very important. And it's also something where, like you said, I understand that not every like esthetician or small business owner who's doing everything on their own knows how to build a website, but it's
Mhm.
important to do. If you need to ask for help, ask for it. Like,
Yeah.
I built both of my mom and my stepdad's websites for like free. So there's always going
Yeah.
to be someone who would be willing to help you.
Yeah. And there's so many softwares nowadays too that make it easier,
Yeah.
especially like in the service-based industry. Some of these website builders are also like schedulers and appointment keepers. Like you can use Square, you can use Vagaro, Gloss Genius. There's so many that kind of have pre-made templates. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be super beautiful, because you'll keep chipping away at it over time, but you just need something that is yours, because your
Yeah.
Instagram is not yours. And then once you get a website, then how do you grow an email list? Like, Carly, I know you spoke to me about your mom and how she keeps a record of her clients and her appointments. So, how would somebody like that, we're talking about email lists, how do they get their clients' information onto an email list?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways you can go about it, especially if you're like a salon owner and doing more service-based type of things. If you have some sort of like intake form that people fill out in order to make an appointment, if you're able to add some sort of like checkbox to that form, which says something like, I opt in to receive email marketing from this business, something like that. You can use that as consent to grow your email list. So you're gaining clients and subscribers at the same time. Another thing you can do that's a little bit more passive is like having a sign up form in like the footer of your website or a specific page for it, or using a landing page. Especially, again, talking about social media, you can link a landing page to your social media and really like post it on your stories, have people sign up that way. And then for businesses where you're selling products more and you're less service based,
Mhm.
pop-ups are really successful. I know they seem
Yeah.
annoying, but they
Y'all
do
would be
really work.
surprised.
They work. Like,
They
and there's so
do.
many different options and designs and formats you can take. You can have a lot of fun with it, especially with like Privy. Like, if you're worried about spamming people or showing the pop-up too many times, like we have such good targeting to keep that from
Mhm.
happening as much as possible. So, um, there's a lot of different ways, and I feel like the best approach is having some sort of active format, like a pop-up, or like posting on your stories with a landing page, as well as passive forms like a footer in your on your website. Mhm.
And if you need help translating any of those words, feel free to DM Bright and I can help you out.
Yeah.
But like once you get into, these softwares like Vagaro and Gloss Genius and things, they have all of this in there already and you just have to build it and, add your colors and what you want it to look like. So once you get, under the hood, you'll see what we mean. And now, Carly, now they have an email list and they're ready to start. What what should what's like the best practice to use emails for in terms of email marketing?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, that's a loaded
So
question.
many things. For like we're
Well,
talking somebody who doesn't, because I feel like most estheticians that I talk to, they're not utilizing this in their business. So like they're very basic, just starting out.
yeah, I would say one misconception about email marketing, that I also think I know that Bright does a really good job of avoiding this is like thinking of it only as a tool to like talk about sales or deals or
Mhm.
things like that. Like that's not all it should be used for. I think emails are a great place for things like product education and just updates related to your business. So whether you're dropping a new product or adding a new service, like that's a great channel to let people know. Um,
Mhm.
and I also think just utilizing emails almost like treating your email list like a group of friends. I feel
Mhm.
like that's one of my biggest tips for small businesses is to really be human with your emails. I think that the
Mhm.
businesses I see that are the most successful, they automate some things when it comes to email marketing, but in their newsletters, like they are very authentic. They approach it like they're talking with a friend,
Mhm.
really engaging them in different ways and making them feel like because they've bought with them before or gone to them for a service, like they're invested in their business and so they want to know,
Mhm.
everything coming out in the future. So, um, yeah, I think biggest advice is, I think it is important to communicate when you are having deals or offers, things like that. But that
Mhm.
shouldn't be the only way that you use an email tool. You should just, if ever an event comes up where you're like, this is a really cool update or addition to
Mhm.
our team or our business, put it in an email. It doesn't need to be fancy. It shouldn't be a novel. It's just like a really great way to put it out there to your larger audience.
Mhm. So I love what you said about keeping it personal. So how I like to think of emails is think of it like one big mass group text. It's an email, but think of it like a big group text. Like you're texting your favorite client who you're almost friends with or you are friends with, how you would talk to them about the service or the product or what's going on, but you're like copy and pasting that to all of your clients. And
Hmm.
especially in a service based industry like we're in, I feel like it would be so fun to get an email from my local spa saying, hey, we're thinking about bringing on a new product line. What do you want to see? And maybe they have a little quiz or a survey form that I can fill out so that they can better understand what their clients want, or like asking for reviews, like, thank you for visiting us last week. If you loved your service, please write us a review on Yelp or Google, and having the links. Like, it's also a really good way to build up your reviews, because clients so often in person will be like, oh my God, I love my haircut, or I love that facial. It was so awesome. Da, da, da. And then they leave and you forget to ask them to write it down so that other people can find it. So you can use your emails in that way too.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't just have to be a one-way conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different creative ways, even if it's just as simple as like sending out a Google form, in your
Mm-hmm.
emails, to have engagement back.
Yeah.
And another thing to keep in mind is like, yes, you can also use things like Instagram to do this sort of thing, but if you're posting a story, that's up for 24 hours and
Yeah.
whoever sees it, whoever does, and like it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So emails are like a really great like evergreen way to do this. And also, I mean, Becca, you can probably speak to this a little bit better than me, but if there's a way with your systems like Booksy or whatever you use
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to maybe trigger like an automated email after the appointment asking for a review, like those kind of
Yes.
any kind of like automated email based on someone's behavior or actions, that's also a great way to leverage it,
Yes.
because it makes sense. You're not just sending a random email to everyone.
Yes. So most of them do that, and they're all different with their plans and their pricing, but most of them do. One tip I would say, if you're going to do the automations with your booking system, is one thing that I see happen a lot from spas I visit. I'll get a text after maybe an hour, 2 hours for it. The timing is always different, but saying, hey, can you leave us a review? And I have a lot of text messages, as we all do. And sometimes, especially when it's the first outgoing message, it doesn't have the brand name. And then I'm
Hmm.
thinking, oh, is that like where I picked up sushi from last night? Is that where I got my haircut, my massage? Like, who is this? And then sometimes I might even think it's spam and not act. So, and I've seen this also happen with like alerts, like, 20% off today only with this service provider, or, something very urgent and time based, and it still doesn't have the name of the brand in the message. And I've literally like last week, I texted back and I said, who is this? Because I don't know. Like, great. I love this deal, but they have many locations, this spa, and I didn't know which one, and they're all very far apart, sort of a thing. So, pro tip, at the beginning of your automated messages, if your system doesn't already include it, which some of them will, but just write like in brackets or bold or something, the name of your business, and then like a colon, and then you can start the rest of the message. Or make the first message that goes out to your customers say, hey, this is Becca's Spa and Salon. Make sure you add our phone number or add our email contact so that you know who we are. Or word it better than that. Make it like so we can become besties or whatever. But that's a pro tip I have. And there's been so many times where I've screenshotted the text or the email and I've sent it to that spa being like, you need to change this, because you can't assume that your
Hmm.
client is paying as much attention to your business as you are. They're walking in, they're getting something done, and they're leaving, and they're probably not thinking about you anymore. But you think that they are, because you're constantly thinking about your business. So you think when you send out these messages, they're just going to inherently know who it's coming from. But if they're getting 5 different messages from, their massage therapist, their chiropractor, their hairstylist, their nail tech, etc., you have to make sure they know who's contacting them. So that's a pro tip as well. And Privy, if you use them, they do include the name of the brand at the beginning of the messages.
Yeah, we intentionally did that for that reason,
Yeah.
so that people
I
know who
see
are
it a
actually.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, text messaging is a whole different ball game. I don't know if you want to get
Yes.
into that at all, but
We can do it a
it's up
little
to
bit. I
you.
feel like just from what I've seen on like Facebook groups and stuff with these booking softwares or these website builders, usually they charge more for text messages.
Yeah,
And same for us as well. We pay more to text you, but we're in a different position. We're product based and we
yeah,
have a wider reach and things like that. So I feel like most estheticians aren't investing the extra money to get text. But let's
yeah,
talk about it a little bit. How is it different from emails? How should you use it differently? Should you use it the same? Just like a
yeah.
quick little taste so that when they are ready, they have an understanding.
Yeah, and before we get into it, I completely agree. I think it's so much different if you're service-based versus product-based. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
SMS marketing, like sending out text blasts, makes a lot more sense for a business that's more product-based. So in terms of like investing in it, like that's kind of uh, the area that I work in is a lot more product-based. So,
Mm-hmm.
all in all, SMS is a lot different than email marketing. There are a lot more compliance laws and
Yeah.
regulations around it. Like
There's a lot of rules.
it's crazy. It's changing all the time. So, um, in terms of, especially if you're a product-based business and you're thinking of starting with text, my advice is before you even start collecting phone numbers or SMS contacts at all, like look for a system and get it in place, whether it's Privy or another sort of platform,
Privy.
because they
Use
will
Privy.
they will make sure, like we make sure that all of the contacts that you are collecting are compliant and meeting standards.
Mm-hmm.
I think one big mistake I've seen made in the past is a business thinks they're collecting SMS contacts by just gathering phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. There's actually a lot more to it. There's like legal language you need to have in
Mm-hmm.
place. So have a tool in place. And my other piece of advice is have some sort of thought or game plan behind what you want SMS to look like. Because since it is such a crazy intimate tool, like another mistake
Mm-hmm.
I've seen made in the past is people will collect text contacts for a year and never send out a text. So when they do send out that first text, it's really jarring and they see a bunch of people unsubscribe. So,
Mm-hmm.
have a tool in place, have some sort of plan so that you're not just like sitting on a bunch of contacts and spending all that money on it if you're not using it.
Interesting. See, this
Yeah.
is why Carly is so good because she's got so much knowledge. Like, these are all things I wouldn't even think about, but I'm using it every day. Like, literally every day I go into our Privy marketing software and I poke around and I see who's looking at what and what they're clicking on and and things. But I would have never thought that some people would collect information and then not do something with it. So that is just so interesting to me. Yeah, so one thing with text messages, I would wait until you have a really good handle on your emails
Yeah.
because text messages is a whole different ball game and there's a lot of legal stuff and there's a lot more rules. And usually your booking software will do like appointment reminders and confirmations via text and like that's usually just fine for what you need. But I'd start with your emails because you guys, if you ever do a promotion or you have a new product or you're hiring a new staff or opening another storefront, sending an email to your email list is the easiest and fastest way to make sure that everyone who wants to know about it knows about it. Because if you're just using Instagram, only the people that see that post are going to know about it. And not everybody sees every post because, it's Instagram is no longer chronological. shuffles things around, and you can, there's people I went to high school with that have babies now. I missed a whole 9 months of posts. So that right there just shows you, if you think, another thing I spoke about at our VIP training event was, nobody, like I said this earlier, nobody's thinking about your business as much as you are. So you need to, don't be afraid to talk about the same thing more than once, because not everybody is seeing everything. And that comes back to, that's why you need to focus your energy onto emails instead of Instagram.
Hmm.
Mostly,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because also in the service-based industry, like, social media I find is great for attracting new clients, but if you're putting all your energy in trying to keep up with the trending sounds and the videos and making beautiful posts because they have to be beautiful or otherwise, nobody sees them, that's a whole different skill set, right? Why don't you just focus on the people that have already been to your business? Because that's a really great resource. Maybe do a referral program for them. And I also spoke about too at this event that, and I think it was shocking because everyone knows me through social media and doing digital marketing, but I basically told them all to not do social media and digital marketing, because if it's working, yes, great, keep going. But if it's not working and it's a slog and you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to be in front of the camera, you want to be, it's a new skill set, you're not tech savvy, etc., 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 then just don't do it. Or maybe you just post once a week and then that's it, and that's fine, and that way you're still active. But a flyer on a telephone pole still works great.
Oh yeah.
It gets me.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
go
it's
old school.
yeah, I think that's a good perspective to have. And again, don't keep all of your eggs in one basket. There's so many
Yeah.
different channels you can tap
Mhm.
into. But yeah, that even reminds me, as far as growing your list, in general, estheticians, people in the beauty industry, they're doing a lot of in-person events and stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can grow your email list at those events, having a landing page, having a little business card with your website or a QR
Mhm.
code to sign up for emails and things like that. Don't underestimate the power of email and
Mhm.
old school telephone things, flyers,
Yeah,
ta
flyers. Mhm.
make relationships with the other small businesses in your
Yes.
community if you haven't already, because the people that are already shopping there like
Mhm.
to shop small and support smaller businesses. So um yeah, I think it's important to try to be everywhere all at once, but you don't need to kill yourself over it.
Yeah.
Do what you can, but yeah, don't. Instagram and social media is very unpredictable, but things
Mhm.
like emails, like actual physical flyers, those are predictable. You know what's happening there.
Yeah. So, and especially if you're a solo operator and you don't have a team yet,
Yeah.
you can't stress yourself out over doing everything. Just do what you can, automate what you can, especially digitally, on your emails and on your website. You can do a lot that just cycles out automatically, and that makes it so much easier. And do in-person events and collabs. We
Hmm.
always say collaborate, don't compete. That's what we try to teach our customers.
Totally. Yeah. And again, just in everything, just try to be human, like you're talking to friends. People,
Yeah.
human beings want to buy from human beings. So,
Yes.
yeah. And I think that's where in-person stuff comes into play as well. If you're showing your face, if you're putting yourself out
Hmm.
there, people really appreciate that.
Yeah. And so if people want to look at Privy and get started with Privy as their email provider, how do they do that and what does that look like?
Yeah, so we give a free 30-day trial to new customers. So you can either, if you have a Shopify site or some sort of website that we integrate with, you can just download the app straight from there. and get started. Or you can just go to privy.com, privy.com. And, there's a lot more information. So if you're trying to like see what we can and can't do or examples from other businesses that have used it before you dive in, you can take a look through everything there. And then we have, plenty of different options and pretty transparent about like pricing. So if you already have an email list and you want to see how much it would get cost to like switch over, our website is a really great place to get started there.
So good. And I'll just say, you guys, Bright, we have tried so many things. And if you've been around since the beginning, you know, because occasionally you get new emails that are like, JK, we're back over here. Please re-sign up. So we've tried a handful of softwares at all different price points. Like literally one of them we were paying $1,400 a month. And all of them, at least for our needs, pale in comparison to Privy. And I'm not just saying that because I really like Carly, although I do, but I would have liked Privy anyways. And maybe if you join Privy, you'll also get a match made in heaven with your customer success manager. And, we get so many great ideas from Carly, but I'll get off my soapbox. I can't say enough good. Like, even my boyfriend, you guys, who doesn't know like anything about email marketing, digital marketing, none of that stuff. He knows about Privy by name because I talk about them so much because it does everything that we wanted a software to do at like a fraction of the price of who we were with before. And the support is unmatched. Like, you guys, I can't say enough good things, especially as small business owners. It can be so frustrating and debilitating when you're paying all these money to all these different companies and softwares and everything that you need to do for your business. And when something goes wrong, not being able to get the help that you need in the timeline that you need it can be so devastating. And so to have a direct line of communication with a real person is like invaluable. And if anyone who works at Shopify is listening to this, can you please get in touch? Because we have a big problem and we literally pay them so much money every year. And they have just told us that they can't help us until we pay more money. And anyways, so if you know anyone who works at Shopify, or if the president of Shopify happens to be listening to this podcast, because we listen to his, please reach out because we are not as happy as we are with Privy. And I'm sure that's relatable with other people as well. I know there's been many times with different softwares in the past where it's just been like fighting tooth and nails to get the support that you need. So when you're looking for new tools, make sure you're looking at price, support, the quality of the tool and the product, how well it integrates with what you're already using. Look at the whole picture, not just the price, because sometimes the support is really actually what you need, and Privy's support is priceless.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It's
Thank you.
true. It's true. Honestly, you guys, it changed our business. So if you have an email list or you want to think about growing one and you're looking for a way to do that, I can't recommend Privy enough. Like, it really changed the game for Bright.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And I guess the one last thing I'll add there is like, we are not shy from saying that we are built for small businesses. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's like, we are passionate about helping you. We're not, trying to shoot for these crazy enterprise companies. Like, we're here for
Mm-hmm.
you. And one of the reasons I love working here is like, everyone here has like a heart of gold, from like support reps to the CEO. Like, everyone actually cares about your business. So, I'm glad to hear that it's, paying off
So
and
good.
manifesting in real life. And I love Bright so much. You guys are one of my favorite people or businesses to work with. Becca's one of my favorite people. I make my boyfriend watch the Bright reality show, so we're in the same boat here, but no, it's been an honor to work with you, and I love, working with small businesses like Bright. It's the best.
Thank you. So hopefully you get some new small businesses to work with through this podcast. If you want to look at Privy, we will have their website in the show description. We will also have a link to the Bright reality show in the show description if you want to watch that too. I can't say much, but Luba just had a very important meeting on Friday with somebody about it. So manifest for us that we can make it a real show. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and write us a review. Follow the show. It really helps us out, and we will see you next week.